That is a fearsome weapon, that 30-millimeter cannon. With me now, Nathan Sales, former ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism under President Trump. Good to see you this Friday afternoon, Nathan.
Good to see you, John. Good to see those A-10s.
Yeah, I mean, they are a fearsome weapon. Some people call it an airplane built around a gun, which it really functions that way. So let's talk about the Marines. We've got the USS Tripoli that's already headed there. The USS Boxer is going to be headed there as well with its amphibious ready group. The president's not tipping his hand, but there's a lot of talk about should the Marines land on Kharg Island and literally take over Iran's ability to export oil, or should they land elsewhere along the coastline, maybe in Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman, to fend off any Iranian threat in the Strait? Where do you think this is all headed?
Well, the first thing I'll say, John, the president is keeping his options open. And the big picture here is we have to get the Strait of Hormuz open. We have to deny the regime in Iran the ability to hold commercial shipping hostage. So then the question becomes, how do you do it? And there's actually a lot of different options. One is via air. You degrade, using our air assets, you degrade the Iranian regime's ability to take shots at ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Another option is via land. You send in the Marines or some other expeditionary force to take Kharg Island, which is Iran's major export terminal. 90% of their energy exports go through Kharg Island. Why does that matter? Because now we've got a hostage, and that's something that we can trade for the Iranians reopening the strait. But another option is a possible naval blockade. Like, we don't actually need to take control of Kharg Island to deny the regime the usefulness that the island presents to them. You could impose something like a blockade or a quarantine around it to prevent any ships from transporting Iranian oil. So I think the president is putting the pieces in place, but he hasn't made a decision yet on which of these cards he's going to play to try and reopen the strait.
So when we look at the two ships that are involved here, the Tripoli and the Boxer, the Tripoli is an America-class amphibious assault ship. It does not have what's called a well deck, so it doesn't launch hovercraft or landing craft or boats. It's got more space for aircraft. So it's got F-35s, it's got Ospreys, and it's got helicopters. Those Ospreys and the helicopters can ferry the Marines by air ashore. That's a real element of surprise. And then the Boxer is a Wasp-class amphibious assault ship. It's got the well deck. So you could launch Marines via the water and at the air at the same time to different places and really take the Iranians by surprise.
Yeah, the Marines are really the right tool for the job if you're going to send a force onto Kharg Island, because it's a self-contained unit. These expeditionary forces have essentially the full spectrum of capabilities that the entire U.S. armed forces have: air, land, sea, and various different platforms for delivering American firepower. So I don't think the president has made a decision about what course he's going to take, but the military is giving him options. And that's part of the game here, is keeping the Iranians surprised, keeping them guessing. You don't want to telegraph your pass so they are ready to prepare for it. You want to have a number of different options against which they have to prepare for and defend against.
Now, the big question is, what kind of shape is the regime in? And I think we got a glimpse into that when yesterday we got news that 3 young people who were protesters had been hanged, had been executed. One of them is a fellow named Salih Mohammadi. He was a champion wrestler on the Iranian state team. That's, you see the 3 of them in court there. The fact that they're now executing these protesters over President Trump's earlier objections, what does that tell you about how desperate this regime is to try to set an example here against any kind of an uprising?
It tells you that the regime is as evil as it has ever been, ruthlessly slaughtering its own people to the tunes of thousands of people on the street, and now doing it in a more discreet, surgical way. The Iranian people are disposable for the regime. And indeed, the Iranian people are the first victims and longest suffering victims of the Iranian regime. It also tells you something about the kinds of behavior that the regime sees as a threat. These guys are not revolutionaries. They're not insurgents. They're out in public protesting. They're exercising their right to free speech, the kind of rights that we as Americans enjoy and take for granted. That's considered a threat to the regime. Tells you something about how brutal these dictators are.
Yeah, and potentially how fragile the regime is as well, if they have to try to set an example like this to suppress others. Nathan, great to see you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.